From one Wall Street Bets user who has bought zero data expiration options every single day for the last 29 days, turning $20,000 into $70,000, to another who accidentally made 3,000% in gains but, quote, can't wait to lose it all eventually. Here's some of the best retarded rags to riches stories I could find on Wall Street Bets this summer. Non-financial advice, we'll dig right in. We'll start off with a multi-bagger. Meet Heger the Horrible, a user who really hasn't been too active on any speculative trading subreddits like Wall Street Bets. He spent more time playing Fortnite, Hearthstone, and World of Warcraft, although he hadn't really posted anything for a couple of years. Heger the Horrible broke the silence when he posted in Wall Street Bets just a few days ago, "If I only bought more," showing that he initially invested around $230 into NVDA back in the day, judging from the returns back in around late 2016 or so most likely, and just let the money sit there. That $230 turned into over $22,000 for a return of 9,779%. It represented about 60% of his portfolio total, meaning he's got another 15 to 17K in his Robinhood in some other positions. User Apex Capital 81 echoed what my first thought was. You bought shares this cheap, this long ago, during this many run-ups, and never bought more. While in hindsight it seems so obvious to buy more NVIDIA, you have to put yourself in Heger's shoes. You didn't know for sure in 2017 or 2019 or 2021 that NVIDIA indeed had more left in the tank to ride. You might have been concerned that we were close to the top. And while he didn't sell, he didn't quite have the confidence to put more in. To his credit, Heger said that he had a few $100 of disposable income, threw it in NVIDIA, and then turned on dividend reinvestment, which has accelerated and compounded the already solid multi-bagger level returns. Next up, we're going to meet our degen of the day. User Cinema God seems like a cool guy all around. I mean, just look at these cool ass cats. It all started in mid-2020 when Cinema God began scalp trading triple Q zero data expiration options. The kicker was that he used his entire portfolio on every single trade. While not recommending it, he called it a one and done, and it's obviously very profitable, but with a catch. He has to maintain a winning streak. As of last month, which is Cinema God's first post, he was on a 19-day winning streak. It looked pretty solid zoomed in. The 5% gains each month compounded to a 122% gain in the month of July. However, zoom out to 3 months and the road looks a little bit bumpier. The year-to-date view, which is about a 7-month view at this point, shows an even more volatile path to just 10% in gains. The 1-year view, it's actually negative, and Cinema God's all-time view, which looks like 5 to 6 years or so, is actually down 71%. The initial 65K that OP started with shrunk to just 19K, and even worse is that if he had put that money in something like the S&P 500 from the start, he'd have close to $150,000 at this point. Considering all this, Wall Street Bets didn't take Cinema God too seriously. "I used my entire portfolio on every trade. Welcome home, retard." Someone else posting a pretty fitting AI-generated image of Cinema God outside the Wendy's searching for Tendies. User Paul Robert and I both noticed that each successive zoomed out photo was worse than the previous. But the response here is even more important, and something that I want to point out. I'm not sure whether Cinema God is actually running a Martingale strategy or not for sure, but the returns, which are steady gains followed by occasional huge crashes, makes it look like a Martingale for sure. A Martingale strategy is whenever you lose a bet, you actually double down on the losing bet with doubling the initial investment. In an environment where you statistically have half a chance of winning and half a chance of losing, Martingale trades can actually lead to great short-term success because let's say you lose $100 and then lose $200 and then lose $400 and then $800. Eventually you're going to win a trade. Say you end up winning a $1,600 trade, you end up recouping all of the losses. The odds of losing a ridiculous amount of times in a row are really low, but if it were ever to happen, you would wipe out your entire account and the entire game is over. But I digress, as the Cinema God returned just a few days ago with some strong words for the haters. Quote, "I was right, you guys were wrong." Backed up with a portfolio that now had grown from $19,000 to $70,000 in just 1 month. Even the all-time chart was positive now, with a sizable 265% return for the Cinema God in the month of July. Here's another synopsis of the Martingale system by Wall Street Bets. It truly does work almost 100% of the time, the key word being almost. In the short term, until you eventually blow your entire account. There's a reason why the professionals don't trade Martingale style. It's a classic example of picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. For our next case study, we're going to look at user Clayton Bofield, a user who really hasn't posted much outside of his interest in Cerebras Systems, an AI company that might go public soon. On July 29th, Clayton loaded up on $23,000 worth of Meta calls with a strike price of $730. At the time, Meta was sitting around $700 per share, but had earnings coming up very shortly. The earnings were freaking incredible. The share price jumped up to the high 700s for about a 10 to 12% bump in the share price. Options, which are of course extremely leveraged, rose 10 to 100x as much as the shares did, and Clayton's initial $23,000 investment / gamble grew to over $72,000. With the options expiring on August 1st, Clayton closed the position for a 3x on July 31st. To echo user Desperate Ruler, OP had both calls and balls. So if Clayton made 50k from the meta calls, how come another user named Ha 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 made 50k from nearly the exact opposite play on puts? If the market truly is a zero-sum game, how is something like this even possible? The answer is all in the timing. User Ha 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 has spent all of 2025 aping into plays like Tesla and Rocket Lab calls with mixed success. On July 31st, right when Clayton sold his calls at the top, Ha 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 put 73k into puts. WallStreetBets was having a field day with this guy, and for good reason. A ton of meta bears have been getting wrecked recently, but OP timed the top so perfectly that he actually was able to sell the next day for a pretty decent gain. The stock dropped by 3 to 4% after its initial 10% gain, but options again are leveraged and yielded an over 70% return to OP, growing his investment from $72,000 to over $123,000. I got a kick out of this little dialogue here. WallStreetBets, of course, being kind of salty and claiming that he was lucky, but OP was also getting a little prideful and cocky about his wins and implying that he really had the Midas touch. Have a feeling we'll be making a lost porn video about him very soon. Next up, I'd like to give a congratulations to user Yuchi-Halachi01, who started with just under $200,000 that he had YOLO'd into NVDA. He held through the initial 30% drawdown. Not only did OP exhibit diamond hands, but he also doubled down by buying calls on the underlying and diversifying his portfolio with some Tesla and Reddit calls as well. Within a few months, Balls of Steel user Yuchi-Halachi01 was sitting on 2/3 million, even picking out a nice Rolex for his wedding. Just this week, OP crossed the $1 million threshold on Robinhood. I'll break down the gains he made. 300k of them were from Reddit calls, 100k of those were realized so far, and the other 200k were unrealized to continue to ride them out. Similarly with Robinhood stock, OP was up 250k, he realized 75k of the gains, and decided to let another 175k ride. Doing the math, he made another few hundred thousand across HIMS, NVIDIA, and Uber. Some truly retarded advice here from Astsuma Storm: pull out 20k, enjoy it, and then start thinking about doubling your money and potentially lose it all. I hope you've been enjoying the gains of summer 2025 so far. We've got one more trade to break down today, and that is from user George with 5 O's. George joined Reddit 5 years ago to ask a single, simple question about trading platform Interactive Brokers, and then disappeared for years. It would be easy to write this account off as one of those corners of the internet that existed for just a moment, only to be a permanently liminal space, an account that became a vapor, a static page representing an account to never be seen again. But just last month, George reappeared, showing off a 1000% gain that he made, most notably 30k overnight on CRISPR Therapeutics stock. He was also holding 7,000 open shares which he'd bought at $1. OP then full ported into Reddit, but ended up panic selling the position. Still, as you can see here, he gained over 55k from the trade, now boasting an over 3,000% return, all in a TFSA, which is the Canadian equivalent of a Roth IRA. Most notably, George claims that he can't wait to lose it all eventually. Under every sarcastic claim, there's always a little element of truth, and I almost feel like some of these speculative traders get something out of losing everything, like some sort of thrill that exists in the loss just as much as it does in the multi-bagger. So far, though, his YOLO retard strategy has paid off. OP has blown his portfolio up from 5k to 175k. Multi-baggers are capable of transforming not only one's account, but also their whole life. That's why I've created the free, for now at least, Gigastonks official Discord server for us to break down and analyze what the market is doing together. We've still got a few slots left for the OG degen role in this server, so get in while you can to be one of the first 69 members. Hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Seriously, just click that little red button like it's the buy button on some 0 day to expiration spy calls, and I'll see you soon.